it's great to feel that the Knicks are back. And then you watch the game play out, and it was as good a first quarter as I remember ever seeing, period. You know, we have the highest of standards going back to the 90s and all that stuff. But when you think about where this team has been for over 20 years, to see them last night with that type of performance cement their legacy, because it's not just a first-round win like it was a year ago. This is another first-round win, and they've now been in the postseason 3 or 4 years, and they've now made it to the semis 2 straight years. It is official. The New York Knicks are back, and it just feels different.
It's amazing. And it also came against a team that a lot of people said the Knicks should duck. And if those who said the Knicks should duck anybody don't know these Knicks. This is everything that you want in a team that you root for. I don't. Now, there's teams that have better players, Yankees, Hall of Famers everywhere, Lawrence Taylor. You guys know the names, Eli, 2-time Super Bowl champion. How can you root for a team? And everything that we demand, just our daily lives, just the arduous process and nature of getting into this city to work. Now we get taxed to come and work. All right, everything's expensive. Gas sucks, traffic sucks, tolls, bridges, everything's tough. And this team is what we demand, because to live here and survive here, you have to be tough. Like, I watch the Knicks, and in my own mind, I sit there and I say, all right, if I was, a lot younger and a lot more physically gifted, how would I play? I would play like them. I would dive out of bounds. I would play with an unbridled passion and an unrelenting vigor that is paramount to survive in this city. Like, yeah, I guess on some level it will be fun. Like if we had our version, although I guess we have the light version of like the Splash Brothers, and we won 131-97, and we rained 43s, and we had the best shooter of all time. But that's not the Knicks. Like, that couldn't be who the Knicks are, because that doesn't embody us. Any good Knick team has got to be lunch pail, got to be tough. And while they're a lot better and more talented than I think a lot of people thought that they were, this Knicks team, there is nothing that they don't leave on the court. I love that. I love watching this team. I'm exhausted. I barely slept. I mean, you can see in my eyes. I feel like I think it, and I didn't have a drop of alcohol last night. It's one of those combinations of like where I feel like I'm hungover and completely sleep deprived, and I want more. I want to feel like this the rest of May, because all the moments with the Yankees, it doesn't match. Like, there's something about the New York Knicks when they are legit that is different. Yeah, and last night was awesome.
We'll get into, we have plenty of time now. I can't wait to get into another series, another second-round series. But you think about all that's gone into this team playing that way. And that's why I referenced the first quarter specifically. And I know that they, the lead got away from them, obviously, but they showed resiliency. And it was just a tremendous playoff game to cap off a very fun playoff series, a hard fought. It reminded me of the 90s. And I hate to keep doing that, but that's what we have as Knicks fans. You either have the 90s to reference most recently, yep, or you have nothing. Mm-hmm. Because anything that happened in between the 90s and now didn't resonate the way that it is now. And I would say that first quarter, because of all the things you just talked about, the heart, the hustle, the determination, that was like the 90s Knicks didn't even do it to that level that we saw in that first quarter. And then the resiliency that they showed to battle back, and the superstar Jalen Brunson taking over. It just felt different. And now we are again in the midst, BT, of what we saw in the 90s. Now, who knows if they're going to beat the Pacers, and they should, and we expect them to, and we'll get more into that.
They're big favorites, by the way. I checked the betting odds. I'll tell you them in a bit.
But it's more about all those things that we talk about that we love about this team that embodies this city.
Yep.
That's a credit to, like, this is not just an overnight thing. This is years in the making, with Leon Rose hiring Tibbs and Rose bringing in guys that this is not an accident. They brought in these guys because they play a certain way, starting with Julius Randle, who took them through the pandemic season into the playoffs out of nowhere. People expected the Knicks to win 15 games that year. They get to the 4 seed. All right, they lost, fine. A little regression year 2, maybe step back before step forward. Then they get Brunson, and look at what they've done now in consecutive years. And they're not even whole. Like, we could argue, and we will, and we have, about whether they miss Brunson or not.
Randall.
Randall. He's their second best player. Like,
they said it a few times last. He was there last night. Good for him.
It was nice to see. They're not even whole, and yet they just took out a team who many people believe. Now, remember, Embiid got hurt for the large part of the year, which is why they were 7 seed. Many people, like, if he didn't get hurt, they would have been a 2 or 3 seed, and nobody would have thought the Knicks would beat him. And they just took him out, and they're building twice with terrific efforts led by Brunson, but it was mostly the team that just wanted it more.
My boy showed up, Dante. You know, answered the bell. He answered the bell. The dunk by OG. Josh Hart with the massive shot and the incredible hustle. You're right. Everybody, all 7 guys. That's a different story down the road. Can you really, how much longer can you win with 7 guys? But at least for this series, it worked out. Everybody that played, although Deuce played, he was very cold to start, hit a big 3 later.
But that's what they do, right? One guy cold, one, like McBride.
But when you play 7 and one guy's cold, I was starting to get a little worried last night at one point because Deuce missed his first couple. But that's who they are. Like, hard. And you name any player, they can miss 5 straight shots, and my instincts tell me that they're going to make the next one because their resolve is, I don't want to say it's without peer. That's ridiculous. Other teams have been locked in and passionate, but I don't need to tell the Knicks fan what they're watching. You know that it's special. And the funny thing is, now, I don't want to say there was a debate, but there was a thought like, oh, man, would it be cool to win Game 7 at the Garden? Or, would you like to wrap it up Game 6 in their house? I got news for you. Their house is our house. We went down there. We took over the house. We won there again. And I don't know how you place a limit on this team. Today's a day where you want to, unpack the enjoyment, and before we get to Monday, which is Game 1 at the Garden against the Pacers, you want to let this enthusiasm and this feeling resonate for a while, and we will. We're not going to just push this forward immediately, but do not tell me that the Knicks have a ceiling. They don't.
Well, they don't. See, you're pushing it forward. You know what
I've also been saying this for a while,
right, but
and here we are.
Right, but don't push it forward.
Well,
Now the one thing is, I do want to see how this is going to play out throughout the course of the postseason. We're going to get a chance to find out. We said that this team can max out. If they win the second round, anything that happens from there is gravy. So we'll see what happens. But how far could this team that may not be as talented as everybody else, especially without their second best player, but their heart, their fight, their will, their determination,
their intelligence,
how far will that take them throughout the NBA's postseason? And so far, we know round 2 at worst. BT and Sal on the Fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire. Remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Ron is in Baltimore. What's up, Ronnie?
BT, Sal, you guys hit it on the nail. This team is resilient. Dante DiVincenzo, BT, I said he needed to give us the 15 points that he's given us all year in the activity on defense, the deflections. We got him back. We got Dante back. Dante, we love you. We know what you can do. You answered the bell. Jalen Brunson, you trusted your teammate. That's what I love about Jalen. I don't blame you in that Heat series, that pass to Hart. You dominated, you scored the ball, but the bottom line is you're a smart player. You trusted Hart. If Hart misses it, I can live with it because he was open. That was the right play. When your best player does all the right things, he says all the right things. It rejuvenates, it unites, and inspires your team. I do think this team plays better from behind, BT and Sal. So hopefully they learn from it. I know the Villanova guys have played together, but crazy stuff happens in the playoffs. We got to learn how to hold leads, but we hung in, BT. I'm nervous, but I love this team.
You're nervous about it.
But I'm nervous too, but it's a good nervous. About everything.
Thanks for the call. You shouldn't be nervous
I don't want it
now.
To stop.
Well, today's not a day to be nervous. And by the way, it'd be one thing if you won, you were thinking, oh, man, we got a healthy Milwaukee Bucks team. They don't. You mentioned it before, the Knicks are big favorites. Now, people expected them to beat Miami last year in round 2, and that was as great of a season as it was a year ago. It was a very disappointing loss. I don't anticipate that coming in round 2. I'd love to see this team get through Indiana, obviously, and then see where they stack up against the best in the East. Let's see what happens. But for right now, it's not a time to be nervous. Now's a time to appreciate and enjoy. And on the DiVincenzo point, like we talked about it yesterday, it can't just be Brunson, right? Brunson, for me, the recipe is obviously the intensity, the intelligence, the hustle, the rebounding, all that stuff. That's a given, what this team gives you every single night. Then, for me, they need Brunson to be a star. Probably, instead of between 30 and 35, you need between 35 and 40. That's what it's been looking like for Jalen Brunson. Then you're going to need, at least one of the other guys. Like last night, it was DiVincenzo. I know Anunoby had a terrific game last night as well.
Yeah, terrific series.
Well, now, if you get
awesome.
if you get three of those guys, that's the recipe.
How about Hartenstein? Do not forget about Hartenstein. He had about 5 or 6 of those little flickers that bounced around. I mean, he was massive last night. Hartenstein.
That's when they were infuriating me last night. Like the offense can't be going through Hartenstein. Enough. Find somebody else to score. You can't.
But he delivered.
I
don't disagree with your point for the most part.
They kept feeding him. Like, no,
somebody kept dropping him in.
Somebody's got to score.
Oh, I get you.
Oh my God!
They're flipping 6, 7.
Good God! Get the ball out of his hands that are going through him. Anyway, so game 1, McBride. Game 2, and game 1, you throw in Josh Hart too. Game 2, Josh Hart and the officials, but still. Then Brunson started to take over a little bit. And then last night, it was DiVincenzo. Anunoby a little more consistent, where Brunson's the main guy, Anunoby the second guy.
Yeah.
And then you need either DiVincenzo or McBride
or
Hart to step up.
That's the recipe.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because we were talking about this before the show, and like 2020, when the Knicks got to the playoffs in 2020, it was like such a torturous run that any crumb was digested pleasurably. You know, we didn't win the series, but, you know, they started letting people back to the Garden. Trae Young absolutely abused us. But, you know, we're like, okay, hey, this is what it used to feel like, you know, even though there was no real expectations. Yeah. And then, boom, the next year it went backwards. Like, all right, so not sustainable. They had to obviously add to the team, which they did. And, you know, last year was certainly a level above 2020 because they won a round. Then they very easily could have won the second round back against Miami. Kind of conjures up the old imagery of the Knicks Heat from back in the day. It was fun. I think on a lot of levels they blew the series. I'm still not so sure the better team won. But either way, the reason why this feels completely different is because in 2020, we had Randall. We didn't have Brunson. In 2023, we had Brunson. He was money. We didn't have, like, now we know that I just don't care what anybody thinks. Jalen Brunson is a top 3 or 4 player in the NBA. Debate it, tweet it, yell it, scream it, whatever. This guy, watch this guy play basketball. He is a surgeon. His footwork is impeccable. Impeccable. His timing is sublime. This guy is out of this world amazing. Amazing, Jalen Brunson. Amazing.
Oh, I mean,
amazing.
Nobody's going to dispute that.
But they might. They can. They can do. Well, you don't think people are going to dispute? And I don't want to do it today. But you don't think he's a top 3, 4, 5 player in the world?
Oh no, I'm with you.
Oh my God, Jalen Brunson.
We've talked about this. He should be an MVP. Now we don't even need to go into who's better or Jokic.
I'm just saying for effect, though, just so people get it. This guy is unstoppable.
And we'd rather here have nobody but him because he embodies everything about this. Yep. So it's the perfect fit. But for me, BT, like you mentioned it, hey, it's now expected. When Randall led the Knicks to the 4 seed in the pandemic-shortened year, it was fun to have a playoff series again. We missed that. If you grew up or lived through the 90s, it became norm to when you got to May, you were going to have playoff series. That's what it's about. And that's the greatest thing as a sports fan. Enjoy it. Win or lose, the loss is going to hurt, of course. But when you win, it's even more fun. But you have the playoff series. You got a taste of it with Randall that year, but it wasn't legit. Although that's where this whole thing started. Then 2 years later, Brunson comes into the picture, and it started to become more legit. Then now you're seeing it. It's legit. We're in the middle of expecting now. We're out of it. We're out of that hell that has been the last 2 decades with the New York Knicks. That's it. That's the end of the story. How many times over the years has it been, maybe they're getting the lights at the end of the tunnel. They're going to get LeBron. They're going to get KD. They're going to get Kyrie. They're going to get Zion. They're going to have this pick, that pick. This guy's going to be this. This guy's going to be that. 20 years of it. And it's now over officially. It started to come out of it with Randall, then last year with Brunson. Last night to me was the official stamp that that's over. And we are now back to expecting the Knicks to be in the postseason, and not only be in the postseason, BT, but be dangerous in the postseason, where we're starting to move past the first round now. 2 years in a row. Hasn't happened in over 20 years. And as you said before, you don't want to put a ceiling on this team, and you look ahead to even next. This is sustainable, and they're only going to get better moving forward.
Amen, brother. I mean, amen, Isaiah. Jerome James,
Phil.
Eddie Curry, we won't get to him, Marbury and all this wackiness and everything in between, and then Jeff Hornacek with Phil and Derek Fisher and Steve Mills, who had run of the guard. And I agree, gentlemen, I love Steve. I know him a little bit. Great guy. Just didn't get the job done. All these years, all these hopes. Well, maybe we get this ping pong ball fall in our favor. This guy comes and saves us as a rookie, or this guy comes and graces us with his presence. LeBron, the names, you know it. If you've been on this ride, it has been, I really think, I strongly, I mean, I know it, but I want to be fair because I know, opinion's not always right, but I know it. There has been no more torturous sporting ride than what the New York Knicks have put us on this century. And not only is it over, we're just getting to the best part of the tunnel. Right, starting.
Here we go, baby. Eli is calling from Waterbury, Connecticut. What's up, Eli?
Hey, how you guys doing? I just want to give a shout-out to my boy Jake. All right, so last night I went out to the local bar, and when I tell you the bar was rocking and everyone cheering for the Knicks, it felt surreal. I felt like a little kid again. I waited all these years for the Knicks to finally get it right, and I feel we have the chance, and we have a great team to get the job done this year.
Yeah, and thank you for the call, Eli. I mean, it's different generations, obviously. That's how bad it's been, is that you and I keep referencing, and obviously go a little bit further back than I do, but we reference the 90s. It's not just because that's the team that we grew up watching. It's because that's the last team that was any good. Think about that.
Yep.
So if you're younger and you never experienced that, this is a whole new thing, seeing the Knicks good who've been bad for 20 years. If you're older, you've lived through some success, but it's been over 20 years, and now we're getting to taste it again. It's almost like, the first year with Randall, you didn't know how to feel. You're getting back into it. Is it legit? Then with Randall, with Brunson last year, you're right, PT, it's like, wow, is this guy actually this good? It was a nice signing, and we had hope, but this guy's really freaking good. How good is he going to be? Mm-hmm. And now we know.
Yeah. And other teams have been bad, like the Mets, obviously have had long runs of ineptitude, certainly, when they were first born in the early 60s and then the 70s. After 73, we're not very good to them. But they were never, dysfunctional. Even the Mets at their lowest point, there's always an element of, you still kind of, they're lovable. Not only were the Knicks bad, but they were unlikable.
Embarrassment.
There were lawsuits. I mean, Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, I mean, everybody couldn't stand the venom for the owner. It is completely flipped.
It was the lowest of the lows.
It couldn't get lower.
All that stuff that you mentioned, the 17-win seasons or whatever it was, the Knicks, and to have that fall from what we saw for the prior decade, to have that fall for these most recent 2 decades for the most part, it was awful. And now, you're right, we're out of it. And only better days lie ahead, whether it's this year, and we'll enjoy the Pacers series. And maybe beyond.
Oh, yeah. Game 1 on Monday, by the way.
But make no mistake, Amari said it. It may have been a little...
Oh, it's our boy Amari.
I love Amari, but...
The Knicks are back.
The Knicks are back.
Quote, Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah. He said it.
He did. I remember where he was when he said it. I remember exactly where he was.
Hey, Amari, now the Knicks are back.